Subs, have you been using Discord already for a long time?
I have. Hang on. I think we're live. Wait a minute. I did this last time. I got sort of kinks out. Let's have a look. Yes, we are live. Hello and welcome to a gaming conversation with friends. I've messed it up again, but it looks like we're live. It does. I'm still getting used to OBS Discord. I've done it in 1080p, 60 frames per second, because it seems that most people's connections can handle that. I did set it up for much higher, but I was advised just to leave it for 1080p. I was. Welcome everyone. This week we're back, and it's been a warm one in Britain this week. It's cool today, about 20 degrees. It was 30 yesterday. It's a bit crazy, but RemovableSanity can't join us this week, unfortunately. He's had private matter to attend to, so he can't join us. But I'm sure we'll have a great show. We will. So I hope you're doing well, Removable. So this week we've got a Sentinel on the show. Sergeant Sentinel from the XPN network, co-host of PSN Party Podcast and panel member of XBL Party Podcast. And any other podcasts recently, Sentinel, you've been on?
No, I did an interview with Web Dave, but it's actually
nice.
not going to be up for like a week, 2 weeks, something like that.
Nice. Fair play. But yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
But yeah, how are you doing? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Gaming's just, very interesting. I'm trying to stay on top of it, but there's so much, so I'm good though. I'm good.
Good to hear. Good to hear. And Meisuko, this man had us mystified for weeks. We were like, where's he gone? Meisuko's not replying. But then I did remember after you made your return, and you were like, I'm back, I'm okay. I do remember you telling me that you were going on holiday. You just didn't tell me you were going somewhere where you couldn't use Western Twitter apps and stuff.
I went behind the great firewall, so
yeah, you were.
Most of the stuff didn't work there.
I can imagine, definitely. But yeah, you had everyone worried. The game was messaging you, VJ was, all sorts. Where's he gone? On holiday.
Yeah.
It was nothing to worry about, really.
Yeah.
Did you have a nice time?
Yeah, I had a great time. So actually, it's good time to time have a break from all the social media and stuff. Like just enjoy the real life. So it's not too bad. But next time I try to warn you guys better that I will be unreachable for quite some time.
Yeah. No, I'm pleased you had a good time over there. I am. Yeah.
It has been 4 years since last time could visit China, so it's a long time. These corona restrictions were so bad in China that it wasn't worthwhile going there.
No, it definitely wasn't. And good to hear. And VJ, how are you doing? And he hasn't got the traditional cup of tea picture.
Yep. Thanks for having me back on the show, Mr. Stubbs.
It's good to have you. Good to have you on. Are you doing okay?
Yeah, and it's nice to have a refreshing set of guests today, Meisuko and Sentinel. And I don't think I've been on a podcast with Sentinel before, so welcome, and don't feel shy to talk over Stubbs, because he does try to he does try to hog up the airtime. If you haven't noticed.
Right.
I don't mind. This is a free flowing show. This isn't like you get your little time slot and that's it. You got to wait your turn. You can just boom back in if you want. You can. That's how it rolls here.
And,
it does. But yeah, thanks for coming back on, BJ. Shout outs to some people in the chat. I see we've got Dreadpool, who was the first in the chat. Well done. Thanks for popping in. And as always, I always have done since I did Midweek Gaming. Sentinel's in chat as well. Meisuko's in chat. Goat Force Gaming is shirking. Not shirking.
Let's not ask too many things.
He was lurking in the shadows the whole time. I think he was on about you. I think he's talking about you.
Yeah.
Meisuko.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's it in the chat. And Judge Silly Music, thanks for popping in, mate. But yeah, it's got some interesting. Well, it's not structured, but got some kind of topics. So this is more of a Sega topic, really, kind of. So we have Like a Dragon Ishin, which was released on February the 21st of this year, and also we have a Like a Dragon Gaiden. Gaiden? Like a Dragon Gaiden, if I've got that right. The Man Who Erased His Name, coming on the 9th of November.
What's that? Gaiden?
Gaiden, that's it. Like a Dragon Gaiden. The Man Who Erased His Name. That's coming out on 9th of November 2023. Very interesting to have two games in 1 year. But then, Like a Dragon 8 will arrive in 2024. It's very interesting to have two games from the same like franchise as such released within the same year. Then to have another Yakuza branded game come out the year after. I mean, obviously, I would imagine that Sega are very happy with how sales are going of Yakuza, because that's quite a big output. But I think it might be proof that Yakuza has found a global audience with the Yakuza franchise in general, because from what I've seen of earnings calls in the past, they're very pleased with how the Yakuza franchise is growing year on year. Obviously, I think Sega's partnership with Xbox has helped people like me start to like the Yakuza franchise, with a lot of game porting, like Yakuza 0, a lot of porting over. But yeah, it's very interesting. It is. I think I'll go with Sentinel. I'm not sure if you've ever played the Yakuza games, have you, before, or have you? You may have done.
Yeah, I'm actually working my way through Yakuza 0. I did pick up all
that's
of
good.
them.
That's good. Very good.
I actually own all of them for PlayStation. PS4. Fair. I bought all of them, but there were so many games that came up. I said, you know what, these games are quality. I'm enjoying what I'm playing so far in Yakuza 0. So I went ahead and bought all of them. I didn't even buy them on sale. I just bought them because I said these are quality games. It's a hell of a lot of fun. And it's just a franchise that I think is kind of underrated. Now it is gaining traction with it felt like it was more PlayStation centric at first, but it seems like the Xbox gamers have really been picking it up also. And I think that's really helping Sega to see, hey, you know what? We have a lot of potential left in this, and that could be why they're pumping out multiple games in this franchise over the next 24 months.
Yeah, it's interesting because it literally wasn't available on Xbox for like a decade, or to be fair, until recently it's never been available on Xbox. So it just shows you what faith they're starting to have in the Xbox platform, because they've even brought over Persona, haven't they, as well, which was interesting. Yeah. So they must see some analytics or stats that we can't see their stats, obviously, but they're obviously happy with it. They are.
Yeah, it's a fun franchise, and it's that the Yakuza franchise doesn't shy away from some of the dynamics that we used to see in games, like the art style and how explosive combat is. They don't try for a more realistic, grounded version. It leans more into an arcade feel, and I think that's what really draws a lot of people to this, because it's genuinely a lot of fun.
Definitely, it's what I find with Yakuza, because I only played it recently. I'm not accustomed to the how should I say, basically the Japanese way of the way our customs are compared to their customs, and you learn a lot through the Yakuza games. Even though they're mafia games, they're very you learn a lot of the cultures are very different to what would happen over here as opposed to over there. They don't, but it's fun. But yeah, good to hear you're playing Yakuza 0. That's a very good one. I put 60 hours into that one. But I know if you do all the side content, it's a lot longer.
I also bought the Judgment game, and I'm planning on buying the next Judgment game because they said it's based in the Yakuza universe.
VJ, hey, man's here.
I just haven't,
VJ loves Judgment.
No, I don't want to. No. Let Sentinel speak. I don't want to cut in.
Well, I played a little. I played a little bit of it, but again, there were so many games that, when I bought it at the time, I said, you know what, this is one of those games I'm going to have to come back to. Not because I didn't enjoy it, but just because there was so much gaming-wise at the time, But I do want to buy the second Judgment game also. I think both of those are going to be an interesting take on the Yakuza universe as well.
Yeah. I think I've played Judgment and Lost Judgment, and I've played the majority, the main entries in the Yakuza series, and I also picked up Like a Dragon. Actually, no, I didn't pick up Like a Dragon. I was a little bit taken aback when the Yakuza Like a Dragon went turn-based, and I was like, okay, is this trying to cut back on production values or combat systems? Because obviously they're not easy to do, and they just made it turn-based. But it was an exceptional game in Game Pass. And the thing is, with I was telling stubzgaming that the Yakuza concept was being flagged or discussed or bantered about in the mid-90s, but no publisher in Japan would take the risk of doing something based on the Yakuza wording or the franchise, or how people interpreted the Yakuza or slash mafia of Japan, let alone include the triads in the recent entries of the game, etc., and so on and so forth. But I think with Kiryu-san, he's incredibly well written, and I don't know if this is this is the correct way to describe him, but he's like an anti-hero with morals and values.
Yes, yeah,
and
he is.
And he's so well written, and that's what Yakuza series is designed around. And it's the thing with the game and where it's set, in the main town where it's set, Kamurocho. I spent a lot of time in Japan, and I can't just tell you how familiar everything feels, and how authentically everything is replicated. And then when you've got Ichiban-san in Like a Dragon, he's his own person. You've got Kiryu-san, and then I forgot the name of the lead character in the Judgment series. But all three of them are very different games. They're all set in Japan in similar times, or in similar eras, but they do have flashbacks, to 10 years, during the 90s, 80s, and even present day. And just that the characters are really likable, they're really well written, and it shows you every facet of them. That it just doesn't present them as, oh, here's a superhero, and he's righteous, he's right, and and everything he's saying is that you should be on side with him. It shows you the pros and cons to every character, the environments that they live in, the times that they live in, and especially Judgment. It tackles some really difficult topics, like bullying, like suicide, and I just don't know many other games that tackle modern society in a ways that those games do. And I'm so glad to hear Sentinel saying that he's picked up those games and he wants to try them, wants to play them, and because it'll only broaden your horizons and see a really sort of truthful perspective from how the developers are trying to portray Japan. And they're not trying to sugarcoat anything. They're not trying to make anything look, perhaps more polished or more, sort of correct or politically correct in any shape, way, or form. They're showing you in its raw form so you can make up your own mind. And that's what I really, 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 really love about the I can't pronounce the name of the studio, but the Ryogotoko Studios games in the last 10-20 years that they've been making is phenomenal. And I think Yakuza, the first games were on the PlayStation 2, right? And then obviously I watched a friend of mine playing them at the time, but I wasn't playing much gaming at the time. But I picked up the Yakuza 0, and I was blown away by it because obviously that was their modern iteration of the Dragon engine. Is that right? The Dragon engine. And then obviously they went on to make Kiwami, which was Yakuza 1, and Kiwami 2, which was Yakuza 2, and so on and so forth. And really, really phenomenal games. If you like story, if you like combat, and you like humor, and you want to get to know another culture, Japan is almost like a different civilization, right, compared to many other countries. And I'm like Stubbs. I was surprised that Kiryu-san was making a return, and I did a little bit of digging, and there was a 4-hour.
I wasn't surprised because I'm very far behind. I didn't know he left.
I thought from the Yakuza 6, I thought that he'd been retired, but this game apparently is set between Like a Dragon 1 and Like a Dragon Infinite Money, or whatever it's called, Infinite Wealth, is set in between those two, and it's also set 3 years after Yakuza 6. I hope you followed me there. And so yeah, I personally I'm thinking, wow, they're really close together, right, in terms of release. But there could be development reasons for it, because like when they made the jump from the original Dragon engine to the one that they're currently using, perhaps they're saying, look, we need to get these out now so we can then go back on and work on the engine, and if we release these two games now, then we can take us 2 steps back so we can improve our Dragon engine for the next iteration of the games, which will be out in the next year or two or whatever.
They get
and the only sorry
we just, there's like a you probably can't see it on the screen, but it's like a they're talking about the next Like a Dragon, or next year, and one of the developers just said, I get quite big budgets for the games now. I don't think they used to get really big budgets, but they get given quite big budgets to make the games.
Yeah,
I don't know. It means
their studios. People. I think people have said, oh, their teams are really huge, except they're not very huge at all. But what they managed to do, keep telling stories within the realms of Yokohama and Kamurocho, I think is a testament to how good that team is in terms of building characters, background, and telling stories. Yeah.
Sorry,
I don't know if I'm trying to sell these games to Sentinel, but he's already bought them, so I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
No, it's cool. I appreciate I appreciate your thoughts on it, and especially since there are probably still a lot of people that haven't picked this title up yet. It kind of feels like during the PS3 generation, a lot of these Japanese focused games were more niche, but now they're becoming more mainstream, and them becoming more mainstream is helping to push games like Yakuza and of course Judgment more into the spotlight. And that's of course they're seeing the explosion in numbers, and that's why I think that we're going to see a lot more Yakuza games after even the ones that they've already announced.
And just to add to what Sentinel's saying there, Sentinel, I think the other massive factor to this is the fact that the original games, when their first iterations, didn't have the level of localization or voiceovers in English. It's the modernization of their engine and the releases subsequently that have fantastic localization and really, really, really great voice actors that are appearing in not just Japanese, but obviously in the English version of the games as well. I think that definitely must help, or helped me anyway. So.
I got a question since there's so so many knowledgeable people on this podcast. So,
Speak for yourself.
so yeah. So the Yakuza games from 1 to 7, they are the Kiryu saga, right?
0 to 6, yeah.
To 6. So number 7, who is on the 7?
The reason why I say 0 to 6 because they made like Yakuza 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then they made like Street Fighter 0. They made the Yakuza 0. So you're right that the Kiryu saga span over 7 games. You are
seven games. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. So now these two games, this Gaiden and the 8. Do we know who is going to be the main character for these?
Yeah. So in the release that's coming this year, it features the man who erased his name. It features Kiryu-san, and then Ichiban reprises his role in the sequel to Yakuza Like a Dragon to Yakuza Infinite Wealth. And both, so one game is action orientated, sort of virtual fight combat, and then you've got the turn-based combat in Ichiban's game. But I'm sure I've seen a trailer where in this silhouette, there's like silhouettes of these two characters walking down the Kamurocho High Road or Pink Street, which I like to frequent quite often. If you've played the game, you kind of know what I'm talking about. But if you're strolling down Pink Street, you just see the silhouettes, and you can recognize Ichiban from his hairstyle, but the next to him, it's pretty much everyone's assuming it's Kiryu-san, and I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't want to spoil any of the story from the other games. But yeah, I think what will happen, Kiryu-san's game will come out, and then there may be a crossover in there, but I think there's more likely to be a crossover in the second Yakuza Like a Dragon game. I may be wrong, but that's what I've managed to glean from what I've been watching and what I've been hearing. Because I think about a 1 week ago there was a 4-hour Japanese presentation. It was all in Japanese, and you can glean some of the stuff from there, from the subtitles and some of the English voiceover. It was like a studio sort of projection of what they're planning to do with the game and the music and the characters and the actors and a bit like one of those San Diego Comic-Con events, but for fans of the games. And they don't give anything away, but they do give away a few hints. And if you've played the games, you can kind of catch on to what they're saying. So, let me know. Just tell me to shut up, right? If I keep going on too much.
So. No, that's good information. By the way, one thing, because I remember reading that the studio wanted to name all the future games as like a Dragon games, but is it now like in the West that they are keeping it separately, like Yakuza Saga and then Like a Dragon as a separate thing?
I wish they just call them all Yakuza. This Like a Dragon thing. I don't know what this is about.
Yeah, the reason is because you've got Lost Judgment and Judgment, which is based in the same locations like Yokohama and Kamurocho. And I think what they're trying to do is that if it's Yakuza, you know that Kiryu-san is the protagonist, right? If you've got Like a Dragon, you know that Ichiban-san handles the leading role. And if you've got the Judgment series, then you know. Oh my goodness, annoying me now. I've got to find out what the guy's name is now. Judgment. So much for my adoration for the game. I can't remember the lead protagonist's name. It's embarrassing.
They were saying in this interview, though, in this documentary, that out of all since we're making the games, the first Yakuza games, they've only got 10 members of staff from back then that's still there. They have.
Oh, really?
Yagami-san. Yagami-san. Yeah.
Yagami-san. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I can't wait to hear from Sentinel what he thinks of the Judgment games, because I think he'll find them refreshing, incredibly different, and phenomenal games, and I hope he does anyway. But that's I'd love to hear what his opinion on the games is. I know a lot of people appreciate those games, but I haven't really come across anyone who's actually played through them.
Yeah, I know someone that said basically it's the Yakuza version of LA Noire, for oversimplification, I guess. That you play as a cop who's investigating crimes rather than actually being a criminal.
Yeah, he's actually a private detective. He's actually a lawyer, an ex-lawyer. I'm not going to tell you why or anything like that. An ex-lawyer that that ends up becoming a private detective, but you'll unravel the reasons why as you play the game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I got to a point where he had lost a court case or something. I don't remember off the top of my head.
He's probably representing Stubbs.
Yeah, probably.
Right.
Oh, Stubbs' son appears in it eventually, so I'll spoil it.
Yeah. Sorry, please continue.
Yeah, but have you, Meisuko, have you played any of the Yakuza games?
Yeah, I haven't got as far as you guys, so I have been only like I finished Like a Dragon, so I really love that game.
Nice.
And from the main series, I have just played like Start of Kiwami, the first one.
What,
so
the third, which one's the first?
First Kiwami one, so that means like the remake of the first game.
Oh, it's because it confuses me because I played Yakuza 0, then Kiwami 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can play Yakuza 1 or Kiwami 1, 2, and so on and so forth.
Very good game though. It is.
Yakuza 0 does.
Whoever VJ told me after I've completed Kiwami, go and watch YouTube to see if I want to play Yakuza 3 and 4.
Yeah.
He says you might not want to play it. He said, but them too.
Ah, okay. Are those the ones that they didn't really like update or?
It's not. They remastered them, but
yeah.
they what they tried to do. They tried to expand the number of cities, the number of protagonists. They kind of strayed away from the formula. I'm not saying that they're bad games or anything like that, but for me, the main entries are 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, and 6. But 0, what it happens is that you're going to come across really important characters throughout this series, right? Goro Majima being one of them. But what 0 does, it also goes back to the origins of Kiryu-san and Majima-san before he became Goro, and it's the way that you understand how he's become the man he is. But you would never have thought of those were his beginnings, and what, because he almost starts out life like Kiryu-san, events in his life.
He's a crazy bugger. He is. He's funny.
Yeah. In 0, he's completely different, but his story, just that game, just for the story of how Goro Majima becomes to be.
Great story.
Is really phenomenal. Yeah, the debt that he incurs. And how he goes to repay it, and how he ends up becoming Goro Majima is. Stubbs will tell you, right?
I'm not going to spoil it for anyone who hasn't completed it, so I'm not going to.
Oh, go on.
No, it's not fair. It's a good story. It is.
Yeah.
Everyone,
yeah.
I have completed Yakuza 0. There you go.
I can hear Sentinel there in the back. I can hear Sentinel in the background going, I've come onto this show to help out Stubbs, and all he's done is got some bloke called VJ on to spoil the games that I enjoy it for me.
No, I don't mind at all.
I'm just kidding, Sentinel.
You know what? Some people do get heated about that. They're like, "Oh, no, I'm not going to play the game," and it's like, why? Hearing where the game goes with its plot isn't the same as the game.
He didn't actually tell you, did he? He just gave you hints. Do you know what I mean? He just it's a nice stock.
There you go.
He was actually promoting. He was promoting the Yakuza 0, the story of Guru. I'm probably saying it wrong.
Goro Majima.
Goro Majima.
There you go.
It sounded even worse then, probably.
You sound a lot more Japanese than you did 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Slow process.
But no, Yakuza.
Yeah, but no, I think Sega have hit on something, a massive risk with Yakuza. It wasn't really super sort of popular at the time, primarily in Japan. It was a risk, a creative and a commercial risk, and there's not that many franchises that reinvent themselves and continue and tell the same story in the same locations decade after decade. And can you think of any franchises other than perhaps Mario World? But so in its sense that is, you've got to sort of praise Sega, right? The franchises are not just that, they're richer than ever and they're standing the test of time, which is quite phenomenal.
No, it's definitely true. It is. It's a lot of number of games though.
If you like those sort of games, right? I'm not saying you have to love them. If you are so inclined to that you like those sort of games, and those sort of scenarios and that culture.
By the way, how heavy is the RPG mechanics in the main Curious Saga, because it's different from the like a Dragon games.
So what's the question?
The RPG mechanics,
it's a beat 'em up. You have to fight.
Beat 'em up. Yeah. So it's very light on the RPG side.
Basically, isn't it?
Action RPG.
Yeah. It's action.
Okay.
Yeah. You I mean, when you're playing the game, sometimes the thing is, the games are great, but sometimes the fights are really easy, and then all of a sudden they'll spike really high. Do you know what I mean? They will. Basically, if you ever play the game, it's not a spoiler, but just buy loads of energy packs and health packs from the shops. You need them. You do. For some of the fights, you need them. You do.
Look, let's be honest, right? Your favourite parts of the Yakuza game are the side stories, and I know that in private, and I know you probably won't mind me saying so, but Sentinel, all that Stubbs ever talks to me about is that why is there a side story called Operation Panty Bait? That's all and it's true. There are lots of panty-sniffing going on.
That is actually when I was talking about different cultures and it was a bit different. That's the kind of stuff I felt was very different.
Yeah,
then I found out it's a real thing.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
I think I completed that on Yakuza on Yakuza 0, where the one girl who's like in charge of the pack is making the other girls sell their panties for all that shit, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe it.
But when the story first started out, I thought she was a prostitute, and she weren't.
I just kept looking behind me, saying, "Oh my god, I'm doing this side quest, and it's in English. I hope my wife's not right behind me, wondering what the hell I'm playing." She's not a gamer. She's probably wondering what the.
Yeah, so there are a few differences. You kind of got to go into Yakuza with an open mind, especially if you're not from the culture.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
You have. But welcome to the Indie Gamer. Web Dave, thanks for popping in as well. But yeah, no, Yakuza games are fun. They are. I don't just play it for the side quests, by the way, but there are loads of great side quests. They're very different to them as well.
Can I just say, and I know that some of us, I don't know you guys well enough, but if you've ever watched Korean dramas, right, they have comedy. Their acts are split up into comedy, tragedy, romance, etc. Right? It's split like that, right? And that's why I like the Yakuza series so much, because even the acts in that, right, you have tragedy, you have betrayal, you have all that sort of stuff, right, going on, vengeance and so on and so forth. But then you do have incredible light-hearted moments, and you have opportunities to do selfless acts as well, etc. and so on and so on. You don't have to, but obviously the options are all there. But I like the way that the acts are structured, almost very much like an interactive K-drama, if you like that sort of thing. So I thought I'd mention that. I hope I've kind of portrayed it correctly, but I just thought I'd throw that in.
Yeah, no, definitely. Welcome to the Graphic God as well. But yeah, no, it's I think we'll cover...
That your interpretation, yeah, whatever.
Didn't say whatever.
But
no, they are. I'll be honest. Like with side quests, you get in a lot of games. Say they're big. I don't know, Assassin's Creed. A lot of the side quests are very collectathon-y, generic. And when you do this side quest in Yakuza, a lot of them do have purpose for and part of the story. Not the main campaign, but they actually have actual stories to some of the side quests. They're not just go and collect all these hats or something like that. They have meaning to them. It's not just chucked in there for the sake of it to make it 1,000-hour.
Yeah, the dialogue,
or whatever.
Yeah. depending on the side quest you take on, and if this is going back to the dialogue, because normally in side quests in video games, oh, thank you for saving me, here's your reward, and you move on. But because when Kiryu-san or Ichiban-san complete side quests, or Yagami-san complete side quests, there's actually a dialogue there that builds facets or gives you really sort of information in regarding to building out the character himself. That's what I think that the game tries to do with subtly without even telling you. So you have a multifaceted not awareness, but a build up of the character within your mind, like who Yagami-san or Ichiban or Kiryu-san really are, you know, as a people and as a person, not just what their strengths are as heroes, but what the subtleties are, just the makeup of their complete character rather than just one facet, if that makes sense. It's really cleverly done, but
yeah, I have to agree that the character building is really, really great. They really make them like you really care, like you were saying. You care about the side missions. They are not like something like you do to just get XP in other role-playing games.
Yep. Absolutely. But yeah, no, that's me done on Yakuza. I won't say any more on it other than the fact that I'm really looking forward to them.
Yeah. So Gaiden is going to be the next one.
Yeah, I think our friend,
like a dragon Gaiden, the man who raised his name, 9th of November it says this year.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Trying to get there and trying to go through the games to get there. I don't know if I will.
It's interesting because they've connected Kiryu-san and the man who erased his name and the setting and the timing of it. They've set it all up so that the games are interlinked with each other, and you probably, if you want the whole story, is to play all of them. And I know it's a bit of a commercial thing, but it's a difficult thing to do as well, you know, from a storytelling perspective. So I'm kind of bought in, you know, because I'm kind of committed to this franchise. But some might look at it and thinking, oh, it's a money grab. But you know, that would be doing the games and the series an injustice. So I thought I'd just put that out there.
Was that the trailer that had Kiryu in this on this old temple and looking like he's doing some meditation or something similar?
I've just put this one. I don't know if you can see the
yeah.
The YouTube or not.
Yeah.
He does look that
so,
way, doesn't he?
Is this game already released, right?
No. No. Is that Ishin? Hang on.
Ishin, yeah. Ishin is a remake of a game, of a PS2 game, right?
This one's like a Dragon Gaiden.
Oh.
Gaiden. Yeah.
Gaiden.
Yeah, so most likely this is like he's hiding for whatever is happening in the story.
Yeah, you know what was interesting in that 4-hour documentary? I know I won't say anymore. They were talking about the combat, and they had a still screenshot up, and they said that his combat is designed around Secret Service and not James Bond, but like a not detective, but I'm trying to think of the word now. But it's designed around I guess James Bond, you know, Secret Service. Special agent, special agent was the word that they used. So his combat's kind of based on that in this game, which is really interesting. So I don't know what his role is in this game, but I'm really looking forward to it.
That's interesting. They really find good ways how to branch this story. That if this is going to be some kind of secret agent side of the story. Very interesting. Yeah, I didn't know about that. This happens when you are away from the gaming news for a while.
Yeah, you know what? I know that these games are coming out, but the other thing I just wanted to say on Sega was, you know, this year you've got. I watched the Nintendo event.
New
and,
Sonic as well.
Yeah,
nice.
Mario. It reminded Mario Wonders coming out this year, and Sonic scheduled for this year, Superstars or whatever it's called this year. It just took me back to the early 1990s, you know, sort of Mario World versus Sonic Adventure, you know, versus Sonic Adventure era. So, but how times have changed, right? But it just took my mind back to those days. But obviously, it's not versus anymore. Both companies' fortunes have turned out very different. Their paths have turned out very differently. But you know, seeing a Mario game coming out and a Sonic game coming out, it just took me back like almost 30 years, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Always, I noticed the same thing. Like when I'm watching the Nintendo Directs, when I see Sonic, I'm always thinking like, yeah, things really have changed.
Yeah.
I wonder if there will be a day when it's going to be a little bit similar situation with PlayStation and Xbox.
Possibly. I don't know. I know right now they're fighting to keep Xbox relevant, but I think there's going to be a time when you'll be able to play these video games through your TV, and then exclusivity isn't going to matter because it's not going to be a particular type of TV, you know.
Yeah, it's not going to matter.
Oh, don't say stuff like Sentinel. You'll make them. You'll make people cry saying stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the writing on the wall at this point. I know. I mean, you look at like you can play Game Pass through some TVs, right?
You can,
and it's like,
yeah,
it's inevitable that eventually there's not going to be consoles. You'll have a controller. Maybe the controller, you buy it and it works with some games, doesn't work with others. That's the level of exclusivity I think we'll see in probably 2 generations. But I don't see there being
2 generations. That's least realistic.
Yeah, I just and everything's going digital anyway. You know, some people are like, well, yeah, what about DVDs and this and that? And it's like, how many DVD rental places do you still have around? Everybody's live streaming from Netflix and YouTube and all these other different, you know, places. It's like you can still have a DVD player or a Blu-ray DVD player hooked up, you know, and I'm sure they'll still make those for maybe another 20 years, but that's not going to be the primary way of consuming media anymore. It just won't.
Yeah, because you'll have a what Sentinel. You know what you reminded me of when you said that. You know, do you remember when the kid turns around to Marty McFly in Back to the Future 2 and says, "You have to use your hands." You know,
yes.
When he picks up the little gun and he's shooting the stuff on the screen like Duck Hunt, and he's saying,
"Yeah, that was Elijah Wood, I think."
Yeah, so I didn't know that actually. That's actually quite interesting to know actually. But what it is that. You know, we grew up on a, you know, in a generation where we collected cartridges and CDs and stuff like that. But now as a generation, you have to buy CDs and cartridges and you have to plug them in. I can just get them on my phone. I can just get them on my TV. I can just download the stuff digitally. And then there'll be the generation that will say, you know what, just, you know, the generation of the next generation of gamers will be, you know, plentyfold. They'll look at these old systems and saying, you know what, it's just cluttering up my place. I'll just, you know, I'll just have all my stuff in the cloud and download it. It's not like it's not happening already, but there'll be a generation that'll look back at what we right now appreciate and say, yeah, okay, that's fine, but it belongs in a museum. So,
yeah, especially with all the emulation happening, you know.
Yeah,
it's a hard one because like streaming's all well and good, but as you say, the internet, the world's infrastructure, probably in 2 to 3 generations' time, probably will be up to the snuff. But all these, like, say the Xbox, even the Xbox One games, a lot of that won't be available. A lot of that won't be available because it's like with a Mega Drive, you just put the cart in, or Dreamcast, or the Saturn, or the PS1, you just put them in. I mean, obviously, if PlayStation and Xbox are still going in generations to come, they'll be on services. But I am all digital now. I've got the PC and that, but I still think at the minute console's still important. I mean, Xbox.
Mr. Stubbs, do you know how? You know, you really do. You know what? You really are Ascot. You know that. I know the Royal Ascot. This happened at the weekend.
Ryan playing for?
This is why I call you the Earl of Rutland. or the Lord of Rutland.
Why is that?
Joke. It's a joke. It's a joke. Because you are royalty, or upper class royalty.
Yeah.
I am more digital now.
Well, I am now, but Xbox can say like, we're about the ecosystem. We can't outdo PlayStation. Yes, you can. You can if you want to. The console war is not over by a long shot, right? And this comment Phil said a while ago. Oh well, most people put up their libraries in the PS4 and Xbox One generation, despite the fact PlayStation doesn't actually allow you to use any of them PS4 games on your PS5. Most of the PS5 games have lost the libraries because they don't allow you to play your PS4 digital libraries on your PS5 generally. So them PS5 gamers he's talking about haven't got the libraries he's talking about. And that's why he said, we've lost, basically we can't outplay PlayStation. You know, you can't outsell them. For consoles, yes they can, because most of them games he's talking about with the built up libraries, they're not available on the PS5. They make you rebuy them in general. So I don't know where he's getting his comments from. It just sounds better because you can't keep up with the lead platform PS5. It sounds great. The fanboys cling on to it, but it's not true. They could do. You release games that are great, people will come to your system, and it still holds up. Now Xbox wise, that your library's built up, and most of the games you can transfer over to Xbox Series X. That's true, but with a PlayStation, it's a different ball game. It is. I know that will probably anger people, but it's what I think anyway. It is.
Well, that's fair enough.
They don't care about winning. There's another narrative. Microsoft are a dominant company. They're a $2 trillion company, and they do want to win. They want to become the number one dominant platform in gaming. If anyone doesn't believe that, you must be, I don't know. It's how Microsoft operate. They want to dominate every industry they're in. If you look,
the problem is they don't. You have people running Xbox that they don't necessarily understand Xbox. And I'm not saying that's Phil Spencer. I'm saying
I agree.
That you have people under him that don't understand modern gaming. And you look at like some of the Bethesda games they've released. There's no exception. Or there's no excuse for the state some of those titles have released in. And if you have good management, they're going to have eyes on that, and they're going to, ahead of time, they're going to say, you know what, according to what I've seen so far, there are glaring issues. We need to rectify that, number one. And number two, we need to come up with safeguards to make sure that we don't have these similar issues in the future. But that's not happening. And, of course, that's how Redfall got released in the state it did. You know, and it's unfortunate, but again, it falls on management. Management has to check that stuff. And the fact that they aren't means that you have a segment of Xbox that's working under Microsoft that doesn't really understand what they're doing, or they're not efficient at it. I think that I would be willing to bet, it's one of those fly on the wall moments. I'd love to be a fly on the wall. I'd be willing to bet that Microsoft is frustrated with some components of Xbox because they are failing in spectacular fashion.
I think look, this isn't. We could have this discussion forever, but you know, I don't know how old you are, Sentinel. But you know, I've been playing games ever since Pong was released on some dodgy console that I bought in Petticoat Lane, which is like a popular flea market. I don't know if it still exists today. Back in the 80s, so I've seen Nintendo's, you know, trajectory up and down. You know, I've seen Sega's, I've seen PlayStation's, and I've seen Xbox, and and I think each of those companies, whoever founded them, however they were grown, it always, whether they're making hardware, making software, it's always about culture, it's about creativity, it's about consistency, and Sony, Nintendo, Sega, the reason why those companies are there is because whether they've been successful or unsuccessful, that's not ultimately, the consumer's prerogative, right? What they have done is that they've created that culture which creates romanticism between and a connection between the consumer and what's gone before, and consistency is a huge part of that. And the thing with Microsoft is that we know I've talked about before. I won't go into it in terms of why Game Pass exists, right? And the most important thing to Microsoft is for them to partake in an industry where they see growth, because there are other segments of their business, as far as I understand, are having minimal growth. It's consistent for their shareholders, so they know what's happening, and that's partly why they're buying Activision. I feel is because, like what you're saying, it's like the Xbox division's been stop start, right, for the last 25 years, and their contribution to the industry has been incredibly up and down. And for them, what they have, and like any company in any industry, if you've got an acute level of power, influence, and resource, you're never down and out. So I understand where Mr. Stubbs is coming from in terms of, look, Xbox, or not, it's not Xbox, it's Microsoft, want to try to dominate in any industry that they dip their fingers into, right, or any pies that they create into. But the gaming industry, like you said, it is like no other, right? Because creativity is one of the key components to it. You can't manufacture creativity. You cannot manufacture luminaries, and you cannot create visionaries. Everybody says to me, "Oh, Xbox has a vision." Well, I think that vision has turned into desire, because fundamentally, people don't understand the meaning of words. What a vision is all inclusive, everyone. Yeah, it's not about. But when you start buying companies and making content exclusive, and Xbox is specific. I'm not saying other companies don't do it, but then that causes division and that causes conflict, and it's no longer a vision. Because if Xbox were really serious about creating a utopia for gamers and gaming, and that doesn't just mean consumers but developers as well, they'd have bought these companies, and they couldn't care less whether the game was on PlayStation or on their own hardware or in their own ecosystem or in the cloud or on someone else's cloud, etc., etc. So I think there is a desire to have that business model that they want, that the vision, but the vision has fundamentally become a desire because of the pressure that's coming from shareholders saying, listen, you're investing a lot of money in there, but where's the consistency and where's the predictability in the overall company that we're investing in, which is Microsoft. And Activision, whether you like Bobby Kotick or not, one thing he has managed to do is, for decades now, is be able to turn around to his shareholders and say, you know what, these are the revenue targets, these are the profit marks, this is the share price incremental return or whatever, etc. I haven't got the correct language for it or vocab for it, and that's one of the main reasons why they're going after Activision, is the predictability, and that predictability is something that they need to dovetail into the whole Xbox division, whether it's a separate entity or not, right? I mean, you're going to see the press, right? It's predominantly going to be Xbox, Bethesda, and Activision, right, going forward. But as I said, power, influence, and resource wins out. But people look at investment. Oh, it's a 5-year, 10-year deal. No. When you're investing $3 to $5 million, that's seed capital for a 5-year business plan. When you're spending $70 billion, believe me, it's a 20, 25-year plan that they're looking at in terms of that kind of spend. Yeah.
I think it was funny that you brought up Game Pass. It's like before, in the Xbox 360 generation, there never would have been Game Pass. In the early Xbox One generation, at the very start, and when I say the very start, I actually mean probably the first 6 months, because after that it went downhill extremely fast. There never would have been Game Pass. To use a movie illusion, it's kind of like this. Phil Spencer is crawling up the steps. He's busted up. Blood is coming out of his mouth. And the Microsoft CEO is there with that marker from the John Wick movies in his hand. He's like, I can save you, Phil, but it's going to cost you. And that marker was Game Pass. That's the only way Microsoft didn't kill Xbox on the spot because of how they were doing at the beginning of the Xbox One generation. And some people are like, oh, Game Pass is great. And I myself am happy because they flesh it out. But people have to understand that Xbox Game Pass is Phil Spencer's marker. That's the only reason that Xbox is alive and that Phil Spencer wasn't thrown to the curb. That's it.
Yep. And my take on why Game Pass exists, I think that if you look at all the other pillars that make up the Microsoft company, and again, I'm not an expert, so please forgive me if I've got some of this wrong, but majority of those are subscription based. And I think when they wanted to keep Xbox going, I think Satya Nadella or the board said, look, we need predictability. So if you want to retain Xbox division, you're going to have to dovetail in one of the key drivers that drive, one of the key components that drives all of the other divisions that we have, and that's subscription. So you're going to have to build in a subscription-based model into whatever your gaming vision is, and then we can move forward. And I think that's how Game Pass came about predominantly, because people have been saying, they have 10 million, 20 million, 30, 40 million subscribers and it's profitable, and then someone contradicts it from Microsoft saying it's not profitable and we're in investment mode. The thing with Microsoft, they can stay in investment mode and artificially inflate the economy of the industry to a point where it puts everybody else out of business. They can do that. And what people don't know, and I've talked to Stubbs or something about this before, is that they've created studios, them and Google, and they have artificially inflated the salaries that creatives and developers are paid in, especially in California, to the point is why that's partially driving up the cost of not game set, but the price of individual gaming units up to $70. That is partially why, but it's not talked about because it's not in the public domain, if that makes sense. There's a lot of factors out there, and I saw a comment from Indie Gamer saying, Xbox are not trying to step on anybody, they're just trying to expand the industry. I agree with that to a degree, but you have to take into effect that when Bill Gates was in charge, and Microsoft were doing really well, and you only have to go back to the end of the 90s, right, when they were hauled over by, I don't know who, by the courts at that time, right? Bill Gates' phone calls would be like, listen, you know what, I like your company, you're going to sell it to me for this price, otherwise I'll buy your competitor and put you out of business. And obviously they were
Microsoft were absolutely ruthless. They were.
Yeah, and nothing in their DNA has changed. Yeah, it doesn't matter what you read in the public, no matter what you read, whether it's Sony, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Nintendo or any other company. If you can put your competitor out of business, even if you have an inferior product, they will take the opportunity, and that's why they're in business fundamentally. And if you believe otherwise, because there is no such thing as a benevolent corporation. If there is one, then please show me.
Yeah, I know, right? And I think a lot of people are like, well, Microsoft is evil. And I'm like, yes, but by the same metric, Sony is evil too.
Yeah,
Google is evil.
I can tell you a story now. When Sony came to England, I think it was Sony. Yeah, it was Sony. Sony's distributor was Selfridges, I believe. Yeah, back in the late 70s, early 70s, somewhere around that time, 60s or 70s. And at that time, that bricks and mortar were really popular. So what Sony did in order to get their TVs and their Walkmans and everything, they used to do distribution deals with major retail outlets in order to cut out distribution. They used with major retail outlets and sell to them direct, especially in the Asian markets and Saudi Arabia and Philippines and Singapore. And soon as their brands were established within those territories, right, alongside Hitachi, Gold Star, and all those other guys, right, Toshiba and all those, Sanyo, etc. What they started to do when their brand became really popular, they'd cut those distribution deals down, right? They'd cut their ties with those retailers and open up their own chain stores. And it was completely ruthless. And overnight, all those companies that had distribution agreements that had set up, their stores to predominantly promote Sony, had no other brand to turn to. But if you want to talk about ruthlessness, Sony have been known to do that. But that's just the nature of business, right? The art of war, as they say, right? So
and you know what? It's funny you bring that up because a lot of people are like, well, Microsoft did this, and now we're hearing about Sony doing that. And if you think about all these corporations as being like this, cutthroat, just from how effective Jim Ryan has been at his job, you're like, you know what? Phil Spencer should have been doing all the stuff that Jim Ryan was doing, but he hasn't been.
No, and I was saying to Stubsan, if you look at Sony, if you talk about ruthlessness, look at the amount of executives that have changed hands over the last decade, and compare that to the changes at Microsoft.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but there's something to be gleaned from that, right? With further investigation, right? But the approach is very different.
Yeah, I agree.
I think you said something something really important that I think many people haven't. No, really. You were saying like Microsoft wouldn't have bought Activision even if it was not a safe company, like a safe bet.
Predictability for their shareholders, yeah.
Yeah. Because like the moment when this Activision deal was announced, it was like I was like thinking like the last Activision game that I was probably playing was MechWarrior 2, like in the 90s. And I was like thinking like this company is not going to do anything for me. And I was like thinking like why people care so much about this deal. It's like it's not a company that makes games that have vision, like you were saying. They are just product for the masses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think Activision. I think the key point here that is Activision. I remember Activision at a point where they needed, and THQ, which they nearly went out of business several times. Activision nearly went out of business, and they hit. And this is what I say is that Sony knew back in 2018 during a shareholder meeting, they had a presentation where 50% of their revenues or profits or something like that, including microtransactions, was coming from 10 different games, and all those 10 games were third-party games. That's how reliant they were on third party. This is 2018, so they always knew that this was going to be a risk. And all Jim Ryan is doing, and this is why I said a year ago, I said, look, sorry, when the deal was first announced, I said, look, the acute level of power, influence, and resource always wins out. Okay. And I know lots of things have happened. I don't go on the podcast to discuss it, but nothing's really changed in my mind. Right. And the thing is that you just, and what Indie Gamer is saying, I think he's alluding to something today and previously, is that you just never know who's going to come up with the next big franchise or the next big game. You've got to hedge your bets. And in the last 2 decades, it's fallen in the hands of Take-Two, would you say, with Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead, and fallen in the hands of Activision, right? In terms of Call of Duty. I don't play Call of Duty, and I forgot what the other game is. Was it Guitar Hero? That was really big for a while. But other than that, right, can you really put your hand on immediately, come up with the top of your mind, other games that you've really fell in love with from either of those companies? It's difficult, very difficult.
Yeah. Can you say what is the last Activision game you played? Like it must be a wide.
Okay,
like
the Diablo beta.
The Diablo beta. Then before that, it was something like Call of Duty on the PS4. It was a World War II game. I can't remember which one it was.
Yeah,
that's the last one. Before that.
Yeah.
That must be like more than 10 years ago.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It's like how about you, Sentinel? Do you play Activision games?
Yeah, I used to play them a lot more than I do now. I actually pre-ordered the new Modern Warfare 2, but I was, the campaign was kind of a letdown. Yeah, from a technical standpoint, it's amazing, but from a fun factor, it's just not fun. And the multiplayer was all over the place. It was completely broken at launch. There was no separation of different classes of gamers. And when I say that, I mean like, excuse me, for Modern Warfare 2019, they had the hardcore mode, they had the regular mode. That was completely not present in the Modern Warfare 2. So you would have people completely just running through people. They'd be doing like 39-2, win-loss or kill-death in one round. 39-2. You'd have some others like 29-3. And then you'd have some people 37 deaths, 3 kills. So there was no separation at all, and it was a complete mess. And after about a week, I said, you know what, I'm not going to continue to play this, number one. And number two, I'm probably just not ever coming back to it, and I haven't.
Yeah. Okay. Now since Vijay said like Diablo belonged to them, so yeah. So there is something in that company, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Only the beta though. I didn't buy the game. I'm waiting for it to come down. I'll see if it ever does.
Yeah.
You know, I wanna throw out there though that the best games that Activision owns the licenses for, they're not developing right now. There's so many IPs like Prototype, Singularity. I mean, Jesus, I actually had a list. I'd have to look for it, but there was a list of like 15 or 20 IPs that Activision owns that they are not making games for. All they make games for is like Call of Duty, Diablo, Overwatch, and like one or two others.
Predictability, you see.
Yeah, I know.
And it's a difficult situation to be in, right? Because now that they've reached such heady heights, right? I mean, to build a company that's worth $70 billion is not an easy thing to do, and you know the difference between Bobby and Phil Spencer. Phil Spencer, I've said this a few times, is that his biggest asset and his biggest weakness is the same thing, and that's trust. And where Bobby Kotick, along with many other people, are completely ruthless. And I don't mean to use ruthlessness as a derogatory term. Sometimes it's absolutely necessary to have the vision and have clarity, which sometimes can be construed as ruthlessness, when actually, when you're in business, especially in the gaming industry, you need to be creatively ruthless in order to get to the goal that you're trying to achieve with the minimal damage to other people as possible, because it's an unfortunate, as human beings, that's what we are, right? Because as human beings, we seem to be defining progress in terms of how much more we can move ahead of a competitor, or being able to step on somebody else in order to reach a goal. That's not, for me, how you should be defining progress. Or you know, it should be that just shows a lack of humanity, right? In most cases, human progress should be measured not in terms of moving just an industry forward, right? Regardless of the cost, but it's like the respect you place on perhaps another life, perhaps someone you don't even know, right? And until we get to that point, right, it's going to remain unbalanced, and you're going to have conflict, you're going to have divisiveness, when fundamentally we're all the same.
That's well said. It's definitely like if you have a healthy industry, like people
but that's if you eat fried lotus.
Yeah, definitely. No, definitely there needs to be like respect between the companies, and that they really can like say, like, if another does something well, that they can really congratulate each another.
Yeah. And I'm totally with you. And I was saying to stuff. This is a bit
Are you there, VJ? What's going on? VJ? Hello? Anyone there?
No, VJ dropped.
It's VJ, it's dropped.
Yeah, I think he dropped off.
Yeah, he dropped off.
You know, I know that PlayStation presents
off the top of my head, like a $1 billion increase, right? In
VJ. We've just been. All we heard was, I've been saying to Mr. Stubbs, and then you cut off, and he just came back.
Oh.
We can hear you now. We can.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. Yeah, no, please continue, because I lost my train of thought now. But I was talking about Game Pass. I was talking about. Did you catch the bit about Starfield increase?
No.
No. I was just saying.
God, he was cutting the promo then. We missed it. Damn.
No, right?
No. It's something Sentinel said, right? It was to do with Phil Spencer and kind of the stress he's under because they've not been hitting the milestones or the beats that they anticipate to do, and that's been obviously to do with the delay of some of their big.
They
games
like that word, Microsoft. They keep using it. The beats when they speak. They say it all the time. The beats.
Oh, the funny beat for me was that Starfield, coming out, and then this $2 proposed, or I don't know if it's confirmed or not, increase in Game Pass subscription fees is to my mind goes to, oh, that's $1 billion extra a year in terms of revenue, and if you divide that by the current cost of a full price game, that's about 12 to 15 million units of Starfield there that they would have anticipated to sell if the game had just still been a third party regular game from ZeniMax rather than being in Game Pass. So there's your 15 million unit sales that the game would have sold, but hey, you know what, because it's not multi-format, because it probably won't sell as many units, because it's in a subscription-based model system, we're just going to increase the cost of Game Pass and we'll recoup our retail the retail economics in that way, if that makes sense, right? Hope you all managed to follow me there, because I struggled to do that myself, but you kind of get and for me, Starfield released a year ago, you would have seen the increase then, right? Because it makes up for the units that they would have sold at retail, instead they're passing it on to the consumer in Game Pass. And imagine if Activision was wrapped up a year ago. Imagine if Starfield was released a year ago. We'd be having a very different conversation this time. We'd be talking about Game Pass going from $18 to $20 perhaps.
Yeah,
that's true.
I just it's like, it's like I don't even, as being a primarily an Xbox gamer with a lot of these IPs that Activision has, I wouldn't even mind, to be perfectly honest, I wouldn't even mind if they were multi-platform. I wouldn't care. I just want to see a lot of these IPs come back and have a AAA budget behind them, because I think under Bobby Kotick's leadership, Activision Blizzard is just very, it's very limited with how potentially phenomenal they can be, because all he has them doing is churning out Call of Duty all the time, and it's ridiculous. And like I said, even if most of these IPs went to PlayStation as well, I wouldn't care, because at the end of the day, I'm a gamer, and I want to see these games come back for as many people as possible, so they can buy these games, so they can be successful.
Yeah. And that's one positive that I think that, well, I don't know if that's in Microsoft's plans, but if Xbox would purchase that and, like you say, relight the flame under some of those intellectual properties that you're speaking of, then I can't disagree with you at all.
I'll give you my opinion. If Xbox overtakes them, nothing's going to change, because they will want Call of Duty to keep making as much profit and revenue as possible, because that's why they're purchasing it, because it's a highly profitable company. And this,
I think
that could turn Microsoft from a $2 trillion company to probably a 2.5 or a 3, because it makes stupid amounts of money. It does.
I think the biggest motivator for them was the mobile side of Activision Blizzard.
It was as well. Yeah, you're all right. It's a good market to get into, but the problem is it's hard for them to get in, because there's always this talk about them wanting to create their own store on the App Store of Google and Apple, and people were writing articles about the EU investigating duopolies, but it's all gone quiet since then, and it looks like nothing's been investigated, because it's like Microsoft has got deals. It's like Microsoft's got a deal with, people don't realise, Microsoft actually got a deal with Tencent in China. Because if you want to make an app in China and release it in China, you have to have Tencent's approval. Because how their mobile phones work, this is what I've done in research. Even if you have an Apple phone or an Android phone, there's a Tencent app, and everyone uses this Tencent app. And when you press it, it's basically like another operating system running over top of the phone. And here it would be illegal. But in China, if you don't agree, they'll ban your phone. That's
just so you know that Tencent, Alibaba, all of these major companies now are state controlled, heavily state controlled.
Oh, I know, yeah. The president of Tencent's a Chinese minister. That tells you all you need to know.
Yep. leadership has changed, and a lot of this stuff is. We won't go into that. I think we should talk about Microsoft's other important relationship with Team Cherry, which brings us on to indie games. Meisuko?
I definitely want to talk about indie games because that's more close to my heart. And like I missed a lot of the shows, so I have just checked the one that Indie Gamer had about the PlayStation show, and I also watched Subs your cover on the show. So I know what happened on those ones, and what else I missed. There must have been many indie games released, or at least announced in this time.
There's been a good question I've got for you. Have you played Planet of Lana?
No.
I have completed it. Yeah. I don't know if you heard the news. I have completed it.
That's nice.
It's a great game. Am I allowed to play your video in the background? You're gonna strike. Nice. You're gonna strike me. Can I play it?
India has all the power now.
I better move.
I was going to say my favorite.
It's on screen.
Do you play many indie games, Sentinel?
It depends. I played Planet of Lana. I thought it was very interesting how you don't really fight the robots. You have to outthink them throughout the entire game. And I'm not gonna spoil it for anybody.
I'll spoil it. Go on.
It was a great dynamic between the girl and the cat, and how you don't necessarily use combat. You use basically your problem-solving abilities to get around obstacles and to get past enemies and stuff like that. I think indie games like that are cool. I also think there are indie games like Hotline Miami, of course, that are, they're fun as well. It's for an indie game to really be successful, it kind of has to have its own particular focus and its own, like, it's basically trying to do something that you might have seen before, but not how they're trying to portray it. That's what makes an indie game successful, I think. And if a game is like that, and it's fun, because it has to be fun. Like there was an indie game called Hue, Hue, that I bought, where you have a color wheel, and as you go through the game, you pick up different colors, and these different colors actually help you access different parts of the level. It's a platformer, but I bought it on both PlayStation and Xbox. It's such a great game. My kids played it. They loved it. There's also Thomas Was Alone. That's a game that you play like with different shapes. They help you to navigate to different parts of the level. And, I've bought a number of indie games throughout the years. I'm not the biggest... Yes, I'm not the person that's going to be buying every indie game that's out there. I am kind of selective, but I'm like that with bigger games anyway as well. Like a AAA game comes out, and if I'm not feeling it, I'm just not going to pick it up. I probably won't even play it. Doesn't matter how big it is. Like Callisto Protocol, I just wasn't feeling it. I didn't pick it up. But if there is a game out there, big, small, doesn't matter. Even indie games that are just smaller, 4, 5, 6 people worked on it. It doesn't matter. If I like the premise, I'm gonna pick it up and I'm gonna play it. So that's how I am about indie games.
Can I just?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Carlos.
I was just going to say that Sentinel. You just mentioned Thomas Was Alone, and that game is like brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant game. There is like very few games that manage to make like a narrative through gameplay, or like reinforce the narrative through gameplay. It's like a very, very simple game, but how they created everything and how synergetic everything is. Music, the puzzles, and the characters, the narration, everything just locks into place. It's such a good game. So I think you can definitely say that you do play indie games, and not just play indie games, but play good indie games.
Yeah, there's also another indie game. It started out on Xbox in early access, I guess. It's called The Long Dark. It takes place in Canada. It was put together by Hinterland Studios. I don't know if any of you've heard of it. It was on Game Pass for a while. It's on PlayStation as well. I own it on both systems. But The Long Dark is a survival game, but it's not based on zombies. It's basically you're trying to survive in the Canadian wilderness when there's a huge snowstorm going on and you have to survive against wolves and a whole bunch of stuff. It's it's a great indie game and it's one of the most interesting survival games I've played. It doesn't have a big budget, but it does have a lot of replay value to it.
Yeah, that reminded me like indie had that car survival game. Like that is interesting me definitely.
Is that the Pacific Drive game?
Yeah. The one that you are now playing, or Pacific it's coming Drive. Later maybe. Yeah,
I'm ahead of you probably.
Video. Yeah. That one looks super interesting to me.
Sentinel.
If they nail the atmosphere of that game, I'm sure that it's going to be so good.
Your pick's got approval from the Indie Gamer Sentinel.
I appreciate that.
You got approval.
Nice.
Well, thanks for popping in, Indie Pixel. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, Indie had a great list here. Like now we are seeing this Neva game, and this one is from that Spanish studio, if I remember right.
They made. I'll probably say it wrong.
Gris.
That's it.
Yeah.
Gris.
Yeah. I think it means like gray in Spanish.
Looks good. There's also this Sword of the Sea. I'm ahead of you lot on the stream.
Yeah.
I'm ahead.
You are going fast. Yeah, this game looks really good. I played Pathless this year. It was really good game.
I think. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just about to say like the Pathless is very interesting game because that game feels for me like a Dark Souls game without the difficult combat, because it has this the kind of dark and not necessarily sinister, but like feeling of sadness of this kind of world that is covered in darkness, and you are trying to light everything back to the normal state. So I think that that game is really for me because I'm not really good at the Souls games, and I struggle with them. But I really like the world that they have, and the subtle ways how they tell the stories. And Pathless really has similar idea of the world building. So yeah, definitely can recommend that game, and we'll be checking out the new game as well when it drops.
I think one of my most anticipated games is actually an indie game.
Ooh, what's that?
Which one?
It's called Little Kitty, Big City.
I don't think I know that.
I thought it was going to be.
Play as a. You play as a little black cat that explores the city. Very interesting.
Oh, okay.
Sounds like Stray, doesn't it?
Yeah, except this one you play as a black cat and you're not in a post-apocalyptic area. So there are still people around and there's other animals and stuff. So it's cool. It looks fun. And I like cats anyway. So the cat in the game actually looks like one of the cats I have. It's funny.
It was on the gamepass sizzle reel. I haven't checked that out yet.
Apparently, there's also another game coming out called. I was watching a podcast on Sunday, and Good Morning Xbox, and it was recommended. It's coming out soon. Bramble Indie.
Yeah.
It's gonna be on Game Pass.
Yeah, that's...
And she compared it to like, it said if you're like inside a limbo, it's kind of like that, but I don't know if it is. It looks good. Looks like it's your two brothers as you go through the game. It does look good.
Yeah. It's based on Scandinavian like laws, so it's going to have like from the northern dark lore in it.
It looks good. I might, if it's on Game Pass, I might as well play it.
Yeah. I think I will also try it out. I haven't seen that many trailers of it. Just I actually just saw that very short trailer like quite long time ago about that one.
Yeah, Indy says Bramble the Mountain King. Yeah, it's already out on PC. It's coming to Game Pass soon. It looks great. Indy's just said.
Yeah. Oh, we got Luke here also.
Luke still.
Awesome.
Yep.
Sentinel's not joining this time.
Yeah. But yeah, I even put a tweet out. There was one game that I'm really hyped and really waiting. It's the Revenant Hill game. So that's by the makers of Night in the Woods developer. And have you guys played that game? Night in the Woods.
No, I haven't.
No, I don't think so.
You won't be surprised though that I haven't heard of it. What number are you on this year? Sorry, you complete a lot of games. What number are you on at the moment?
This year not that many. Maybe only like 14 games.
14? You've slowed down a bit this year. It's still double or treble what I complete. It is.
Yeah. Have taken it more slowly this year.
It was something like 40 odd by this time last year, was it? Or so you got a serious amount of games done. You did last year.
Yeah, I played a lot, tons of games. But yeah, this Night in the Woods is like if I would describe it like it's a tale of this kind of animal characters that are like, of course, portraying like humans, but it's a story about like this kind of slowly dying town that most of the shops have disappeared and all the side effects that have happened because of that. So it's very down to earth game, but it's like for me it's like so
Night in the Woods. No.
Yeah, Night in the Woods.
Really
exactly that one.
Is it an old game?
Yeah, it's 2017, I think.
Nice. You're showing up. I'll just play the trailer.
Yeah.
It's showing up 5 years ago. It is.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah. So it's really there is this kind of mysterious element behind everything.
Cat too.
Yeah, cat also. And this one was one of the rare games that I really wanted to like talk with all the characters, and it's not just like talking with the characters, because like some games you have like you want to get one from point A to point B, and you are like on a mission. But in this game I really, because it's divided on days, and you can really every day things change. The town people are doing whatever they are doing, and I really wanted to know what is happening on every of the days, and it's like this world that they have is like so much like real world that or maybe it's just for me because where I was born, it was a small town, so like a little bit like in this game, like slowly dying away, and most of the companies have left and so on. So people are left to live maybe a slower life, and there is the young people, of course, who are left in this kind of world that every young people wants to go forward, but when they are living in this kind of place, they feel like that there's nothing nothing happening, and nothing to do, or that they cannot do anything, that there is this kind of hopelessness. And I think that this game really portrays this kind of environment very well. And I was even like joking like that I don't understand anything about poetry, but in this game there is like poetry by one of the characters, that you walk in the town and you can talk with this person, and she can give some poetry every day, multiple ones, and it's like very interestingly linked to the main story, that is like comes at the almost at the end of the game, that everything of this poetry makes sense at the end, and it's that kind of things that you can totally miss out if you don't really want to delve deep in the game. So definitely this game was great, really awesome game, and I really want to see what they are going to do with the Revenant Hill game. And yeah, what else? There was actually one.
It looks good.
One.
It does.
Yeah. Just wanted to say one thing, that there was actually one sad thing about this game. The developer, one of the developers that was making this one, so there was some nasty accusations made about him, and this person took his life away. So it's really sad to know that like a game that is telling about the hardship of this kind of normal people, and like people who have experienced it themselves, that in the end it really comes to bite you also in the end, no matter how successful you ended up with the game.
Yeah, it's terrible, that.
Mm. I'm not really a big fan of this kind of online lynching mentality.
Yeah, they kind of they kind of pile on, with some of these. They get really aggressive. So a lot of people go too far, but I think I don't know. They just don't understand that there's a human behind account, and do you know what I mean? It's just a bloody game. What's it matter?
I think a lot of people online expect the future of gaming to be identical to gaming's past.
I didn't know that though.
Well, because
sorry. That story you just told it. I didn't hear anything about that. That's terrible. That is.
Yeah, it's like it's I was like, when I finished the game, I was like checking out like how is everything going with the development team, like what are they doing now next, and then read about this controversies and that this person, of course, he was having depression beforehand, but what break the camel's neck was this kind of online accusations.
It's terrible. Right.
Mm.
Sorry, Sentinel. What were you saying? Sorry.
It's just people get bent out of shape because they want gaming in the future to be like it was in the past, and that's why some people, they get very tribalistic, I guess. They're like, my console is my games and my exclusives, and they're ready to fight other people. And they get more agitated because gaming's departing from that. And I think they need to take a step back and see that it's not just gaming, but it's the world that's influencing gaming that's changing. And what we knew in the past isn't necessarily going to be how gaming is in the future. And I think if they do that and they really start to process what's going on, you're going to see some of these people able to be more civil to each other.
The thing, Sentinel, I think it goes a little bit deeper than that, right? Not that you're incorrect, you're spot on in terms of your observation, but the fundamental, if you get to the root of it, that human beings have no control. You see?
Yeah.
And when you have fundamentally no control over events, that means there's no order, and in your mind there's no peace, right? And people fundamentally look for peace. And you're right, people live in the past, they look to the future and they suffer in the present. But the way you should look at it is you should look to the past, know that you're going to suffer in the future, and live in the present. And people get it completely back to front. And the way that people, and I had a debate about this removable on this show a couple of weeks back.
Yeah, they couldn't come to an agreement, could you?
Whether you're angry, you're frustrated, you take it out on other people, and let's just, for argument's sake, call it violence. And violence is always a reflection of your intelligence, no matter whether it's physical or verbal. And until people want to look at that and look at themselves, unfortunately, human beings will always be a blight on this plane of existence.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know if it's true, but the thing is, because even what I say, I struggle with, because, a wise man once said that all facts, beliefs, belief systems, cultural understanding, all of that, or even facts, all lie in the shadow of ignorance. And it's true, and it's just a society. The way you see it is ultimately a reflection of yourself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But let's get back to indie games, because I want to talk about Silk Song.
Yeah.
I'll put Silk Song up.
Yeah.
Silk Song.
So next, I guess we have to hear Stubbs and the Weech's favorites for this season of gaming. all the great shows going on.
Let's have a look. Hang on, I've got it in notes. Right, let's have a look.
Come on, Stubbs. And we know you've got it tattooed on your handmade underwear that you order from Selfridges.
There was some good. I'm just trying to think. There was. I'm gonna put Silk Song on because VJ mentioned it. But there was some good games. There was the game called Under the Waves that looked good.
Yeah, that looked really good. Mm.
That looked good. Summer Hill. That looked good. Neva, which we did see in the Indies video. Sword of the Sea, which looked good. The one I didn't know about though, I didn't see it until Indies video, was Harold Halibut. That looked very, very interesting. That did. That one did. Still Wakes to Deep looked good as well. And Hellskate, which I definitely want to play that. I do.
Yeah, that seemed like a very, very action or like energetic game.
It did look good.
But
Stubbs is reading. Yeah, actually, it's true. They were off his video. Actually, they were. That's the exact list I posted in his comment section. Actually,
I wanted to play that indie game. What was it called? Stubbs chases women of doubtful moral rectitude. I'm just kidding. Sorry, please continue. It's just my thoughts overtook me there for a moment. I apologise.
There were some other games. I don't remember which showcase. What's that on for? Hang on. Adverts. Interview there. Also, High Water, Fretless, Paper Trail, Station to Station, Stray Gods, and Cookie Cutter. I think that was from the Future Game Show. Oh god.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I haven't seen those yet. No. Yeah, I have a lot of shows that I still have to watch. How about VJ? Did you watch all of these shows?
I tell you what it is. I think the game that I put the most hours in this year was probably MechWarrior 5, completely by chance.
Yeah.
And when I watch these shows, I try not to look at them anymore because I've always had an issue with myself is in like looking at games. Oh, this is an indie game. This is a AAA game. Blah blah blah. What? I think I said it on Indie Show that I'm coming closer to what it should be. Is that games that are made by very few people are typically games. How's the best way to put it? Are more of a personal story, a personal vision, and a personal goal. And where larger games, regardless of how big the budget, is a more of a collective passion. And as long as everybody's bought in, doesn't matter the number of people or the budget, you should come out with something that that will be welcomed by one gamer or many gamers. That's the way I tried it. I don't want to. I just think that it's something division. Not in society and cultures, and when you mentioned what was it? I forgot what it was called now. Tribalism, and I was, my mind jumped to like nationalism being tribalism, and it has been that for decades, right? So anyway, we won't go down that route. But there are some games that I look forward to, but it's like every game that I saw during the show. I'd only just started playing Zelda prior to all the shows going in, because the Zelda came out in May 12th, and then all these events started occurring in June. So I was kind of playing MechWarrior 5 and Zelda, switching between the two. I finished off MechWarrior and carried on playing Zelda, and everything that I saw in the indie games and even in the AAA games and all the games that announced, and I saw all the elements that I liked in many of those games. And I haven't played my Switch for many years, right? But when I went back and played Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, I realized that everything that I liked in some of those individual games is that all of the essence of all of those games is very subtly and in some cases very obviously, and well, you can call it ironically if you want, is dovetailed and is ever present within Tears of the Kingdom. And I know that's a really big statement to make, but now, like nearly, I think I'm over 100 hours in now. Well over 100 hours. We've done over 100 shrines now. I've been playing Zelda, I know we talked about Judgment and other games that we're looking forward to. It's just that I'm just so enamored with the Tears of the Kingdom. Anything else to me, whether it's coming out now or coming out later on, and I'm sure there's some fantastic games. Just Tears of the Kingdom just has everything that you could possibly want from a really, really good video game. And remember, it's made on hardware which was probably released in 2017 but was probably based on technology that was probably even 3 or 4 years older than that. Would I be right in saying that? So technology that's almost 10 years old, so it's not as if it's like a super powered console or anything.
Luke's got your back in the chat.
Yeah,
it's definitely a wonderful game, he says.
Yeah, so I don't know where Luke is at, but Luke, I'm about 100 shrines, and I reckon I'm about 3/5, maybe even 4/5 through the game now, including the sub stories and missions and everything. But the way the game is composed, I think it's like imagine who's that guy? The conductor. You know, the conductor in a band, and you have all the different facets to the actual.
You're way ahead of Luke. He says you're way beyond me.
Yeah, but the way no spoilers now. Sorry, sir. I won't do that to you. I promise. I'll just DM you blatantly. But I'm just kidding. But you know, like, the way the conductor has to, you know, deal with all the different facets of a band. You know, the string section and etc. etc. It's just composed so well. Every facet, everything that we talk about in video games, the story, the side missions, the narrative, and etc. etc. You know, I thought Final Fantasy 16 was going to be something fantastic, you know, especially when it spans over Clive's lifespan over 2 or 3 decades. But this game spans over centuries, and you know, and the sacrifices that are made at one point in time are made, you know, for people in the future, and the people in the present have to, you know, take on that narrative which is already set for them in order to honor what a sacrifice that was made potentially, you know, a century ago. So it's very deep in that sense, and it has lots of universal truths in it, besides just being a wonderful game with fantastic mechanics. And you can see that when I look at the 6-year dev cycle and people complaining, oh, this game should have taken blah blah blah, you know, you can actually start to appreciate that 6 years was probably a phenomenal time period in terms of how quickly they produced what they have, in terms of, in my eyes at least, a masterpiece that I'm enjoying right now. So in some regards, Meisuko, I did enjoy what I saw, and I appreciate and respect it. But at the same time, you know, we always say, like, it's not as if we're not, as gamers, I think something Sentinel mentioned earlier, we're not as if we're gamers that aren't already feasting at the banquet of adequacy, if that makes sense, right? So we're already there. So this just all supplements everything that we're enjoying right now, other than the fact that we have to use our hands, right?
Yeah.
I just love that future reference, you know, from Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And the and Sentinel educated me on the fact that was Elijah Wood, which I had no idea. But there you go.
Yeah, well, one of the kids that told him that was Elijah Wood. I don't remember if that was the kid that said it or he was the other kid standing there, but I know one of them was Elijah Wood.
There you go.
Yeah. So basically, you have to get over Zelda before you can arrange your feelings about next game.
I won't lie. I'm really looking forward to Silk Song. I know that Indie Gamer knows the release date, but he won't share it because obviously we all know he's an ITK. I'm kind of, I think if you talking about, you know, historical games and games in the future, I have to say, and I think I mentioned it to Stubbs and RemovableSanity, is the fact that Mario RPG, I never got to play it the first time around, and now that it's being remade, and it's coming out in a few months. Yeah, I think that alongside playing that in parallel to the new Kiryu-san saga in Like a Dragon, because they're both out at a similar time, I think those two are the games that I'll be playing in parallel to each other, unless Silk Song drops. And prior to that, I had Starfield, Spider-Man, and all the usual suspects on there. But when I saw those two games, they just captured me in a way, captured my imagination. And that's what video games do, right? That's what entertainment does. It captures your imagination, right? And it takes you back to being, you know, kind of almost innocent again, which none of us are, obviously. So if you, they're the two games that spring to mind immediately. And I don't want to like name loads of indie games because I'm not that interested in them at the moment, because this is what's captured me, and partially going back to what Sentinel said, mentioned something in the beginning, is because it's some of the stuff that I grew up with, and it's you know, I know you said something about, you know, people want the industry to be like it was back then. This is kind of like, that's not what I want, but it's like my chance to I get a second chance, if that makes sense, right, to play some of the games I never got a chance to in the past.
Yeah, I mean, Go ahead, Meisuko.
Yeah, I was just going to quickly ask, like, VJ, like, how do you feel about games? Like, is there any of this kind of game that really, like, touches you in this kind of personal way? Like, you remember something from the past?
I would have to say I was living in Asia at the time, and I think Street Fighter Zero. It was a big departure from the graphical style of the traditional Street Fighter games, like Street Fighter 2 and Street Fighter 2 Turbo, etc. When Street Fighter Zero came out, and I think also Final Fantasy 7, which I played in Japanese twice over. I've told the story on here before. I used to like jot down the Japanese so I could make a golden chocobo because I had no bloody clue what to do, especially what herbs to feed them, and sending them off to my friend in Japan, and then and then getting, because obviously,
it was interesting.
Obviously, because kanji, I don't know if it's kanji and the Cantonese symbols, because if you don't know, people in Hong Kong and China can actually read Japanese because the characters are very similar. And Meisuko, you might know this, right?
Yeah.
So
both use the old Chinese characters.
So even though people think there's a divide, actually there's a massive similarity where both countries, they can read each other's language, which even though they can't speak the same language, which is quite funny, really. But anyway, just moving on from that. But yeah, Final Fantasy VII, I think was just something I'd never experienced before. And the other one, I think that, I know it's going to be a strange one, but the other one that caught me off guard and completely, this is going back, let's not talk about Silk Song and stuff. The other one was Mario Galaxy on the Nintendo Wii, which I thought was one of the best games I'd ever played, and it still is.
So
really poor choices, I know, sorry.
No, it's just that. So this Tears of the Kingdom, like, what would you say that is like the most important thing that makes it special? Because I have seen the trailers, and it looks like it's like a big adventure, and there's a lot of freedom what you can do. But it's like for me the problem is like that. This the main character feels so empty.
In which game?
Tears of the Kingdom.
I think I can't remember what game we were talking about. Kiryu-san, right? In terms of learning about him and how the character is built. And Tears of the Kingdom does a far better job than Breath of the Wild in terms of building out the character and your relationship with him. And
okay.
So I think it's I don't know what Luke Steele feels, but I think it's a far superior game to the original, and that's not to dismiss the original because it won Game of the Year. I'm not sure what Luke meant in the chat by saying hard. Agree with that.
I think he's on about the Galaxy game you mentioned.
I don't know if he means he agrees with it or doesn't agree with it. I don't know, but anyway, hopefully. Galaxy is unbelievable. There you go. Yeah, Mario Galaxy. Yeah, it's a phenomenal game from Mario Galaxy, and collected all the stars. But look, it just depends because I'm of a different age to Sentinel, and Sentinel, he's probably a different age to you, Mr. Stubbs, and Meisuko, you're obviously only 18, so you're barely allowed to be on the show, given the nature of it. So we've all grown up at different times, our parents and circumstances and locations and the civilizations that we've grown up with in the society and culture. We've all been, as Sentinel said at the beginning, right? He alluded to, look, where we live in different times when we've been commercialized and consumerized by corporations in very, very different ways, and we could afford different things. And I mean, I still remember one of my best experiences with video games was Night Law on the Spectrum. I'd never played anything like it in my life.
Cassette tapes.
So yeah, cassette tape. So and then living in Asia, I never knew that someone was going to say, "Hey, have you tried Final Fantasy VII?" I said, "Final Fantasy VII?" I said, "Really? Okay." I played some of the others, on the Super Nintendo and stuff, but I wasn't as enamored with the series as I was with Secret of Mana. And then playing Final Fantasy VII, a 3D game with the music and the characters, and even though I couldn't read Japanese or understand what was going on, the way that the game was designed and the way it was directed, and with the music that was going on, and even with such a limited amount of polygons, the animation just like portrayed exactly what it was that the story was trying to convey, which I couldn't bloody read. It was just phenomenal, and the overworld music and some of the scenarios within the games that played out, you hadn't come across in a video game before, and obviously and then obviously, I was saying to Stubbs, if you look at Metal Gear Solid, if you look at Resident Evil, if you look at Final Fantasy VII, they're made by 3 very different companies. But if you look at the way that the games are directed, the camera angles that they use, they were very different games, but it played to the power of the PlayStation at the time. And the games in some aspects are very different, very, very similar, even though they're completely different, right? Because of the structure of the architecture. So a phenomenal time for games, and as it is today, as I say, it's not as if we're short of anything really. We live in how can I say, in special times, right? Even though we still
Yeah, I have still like question about this Zelda. So does it have, because let's say if we would compare it to Hollow Knight, like, is it also similar game that it's not like a obvious game, not an obvious story in it, but it's more like what you discover.
It does, yeah. It's about the story. It does have pointers, but overall, there's so much exploration to do. For example, you have the main story quest, you have the shrines and the stories, and you have the side quests, and you have memories to collect. Yeah, but it's like, I know it sounds like almost like 4 different games, but that's what I'm saying. It all dovetails in neatly together, and the more you want to learn, the more you do. But you don't have to do that. If that makes sense, you have a choice how deep you want to go. If that makes, it's like watching a movie, right? Some people say this is the best movie, I'm going to watch it 10 times, and you may watch a movie once and say, I really enjoyed it, but that's fine. I've got out of it what I wanted to. So Zelda is a game that you get out what you put in, if that makes sense. And I think Silksong. Look, I sorry, Hollow Knight. Yeah, Hollow Knight is about discovery, right? But you get the when you're in the Hollow Nest, right at the top, you get the gist of what it is that you've got to go and do, and then it's about discovery. And so Zelda's very much in line with that. But besides the fact that it's got fantasy violence and blood and I don't know about sexual themes or drug references or anything like that. We'll leave that to that kitty game by Finji, but. But what I will say, all the side quests that you do actually dovetail into the main story. So even though you're doing side quests, they're not all fetch quests. There's nothing really like that in Zelda. There are a couple, but the majority of them, and even the shrine quests, they all dovetail into telling you the overview and the narrative or the rabbit holes that you want to go down in understanding the whole nature of the game and the story that it's trying to tell.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question, because I'm not very good at answering those sort of questions.
No, it's just that I'm always like a little bit skeptic, like when so many people say that the game is amazing. Yeah. But of course, I trust.
I haven't even touched I haven't even touched on the mechanics of the game, which would just blow you away.
Yeah.
Because the mechanics that they've built into that game. Luke Steele will tell you, as I think I was on the podcast or maybe in a chat where I was saying to him, you know what, I've picked up the Nintendo controller, but because the A and the B and the Y and the X are inverted compared to the Xbox, I was struggling for hours pressing the right buttons on that game, and I was getting really frustrated. But now it's like second nature, and just the way that the game is set up, Meisuko, in the first few hours, it explains all of the control systems, everything that you can do, and then it's about you using the controls, the methods, and the abilities that you have to navigate the whole world. You don't have to run around for 6 hours to get an ability, but what you do get armor sets and items that accentuate the abilities you already have. So it's a very layered approach, and that you can actually build your character up. But you start off, with everything you need, and then it's a case of how far do you want to take it, if you make sense. It's really, really cleverly done. Like most games, like you have to do this, that, and the other, and something hideously annoying to, make your character more powerful. This game is almost seamless, and you can go off and do specific things. Right, it is truly an open adventure game. I'll tell you what it's like. It's very. I know you've probably played. It's very much like Elden Ring in that respect.
Mm. Oh, okay. Without the hard combat.
Oh, I don't know. that's individual.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Maybe I really have to give it a try. There is just some nagging feeling that I always get when I see the trailers of that one. Don't know what it is, but there is
which game?
Zelda.
I'll send you one trailer. I may have already done so, but I'll send it again, because sometimes I don't know if maybe it's a question for everybody, right? It's like sometimes a game comes out and you don't want to play it, but some point in time you just somehow you get a hold of it, you play it, and you think, right, now is the time I should be playing this game, if that makes sense. Not every game has to be played on the day of release. Sometimes you just wake up one day. It happened to me, right? And it happens to me a lot. And I say, you know what, I want to play this game, and I go and play it, and then I, spend 100 hours on it. So that's just the way it is. I don't play games because they're prescribed to me to be played at a very specific moment in time. No. So sometimes it is about timing and where you are in your life, right? And how you feel and what you want to do. So because I try to play a game, and I try my best. Stubbs knows that if I start a game and I enjoy it, I want to finish it. I don't want to leave it,
That's true,
midway or anything like that. That's why I've been starving myself of Metroidvania games, or whatever the terminology is, so that when I play Silk Song, I'll be ravenous.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. Yeah.
Does that answer all your questions, Meisuko, about Zelda?
Yeah. Now I know much more.
Meisuko, just be honest and just say, yeah, you did a really, really, really rubbish job.
No, you did a good job. You did.
No, it's
but
good.
yeah, I don't want to keep you any longer, Meisuko. I think we'll wrap it up there, because it is 1 o'clock in the morning your time. I do appreciate you coming on. I do, because you came straight home from work, didn't you? And straight on.
Yeah.
Meisuko, just one more game. I forgot to tell you.
Yeah.
Two more games: Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
And Dragon Quest 8.
Okay.
Two other games that I'll never forget.
Okay. But was there something special that make them, connect with you?
Yeah.
Because shooting zombies is not something that
it just reminded
you normally do in real life.
The zombie just reminded me of one of my ex-girlfriends, and
so it was
a zombie.
Oh, yeah. Come after me like that for sure. And Dragon Quest 8, for me, still to this day, has the best voiceovers and stories in a video game. And the twists, and people hear about twists and turns and plots, and that game, it's 2003, 2004. Yeah, phenomenal. Still phenomenal. I still remember a lot of it, and the characters, the design of the characters. You get like Darth Vader, Sephiroth. There's a character in there called Dalmagus. I don't want to spoil it or anything, but yeah, it's got that kind of that vibe to it, and the adventure that you go on, the combat system, the music. I mean, it was the first 3D game, right? I think the first Dragon Quest to be in 3D, and it was phenomenal. And Resident Evil 4, you all know about, right? I've played it numerous times. I haven't played the remake or anything. I'm just still enamored with the original. But yes, I just because you asked me, I just wanted to mention those other games that just were sitting there in terms of the games that I've loved from the past, and the question's open to everyone, I guess.
Remake is definitely harder, I think, than the original.
Oh, interesting.
It's definitely more challenging. I picked up the remake day one, and I have pretty much owned Resident Evil 4 on almost every platform it's ever been on, but the remake definitely ups the difficulty, and the enemies are a lot more aggressive. So just be prepared for it.
I really enjoy the Resident Evil series. I never ever took it too seriously, because I don't know if you remember, like, the writing for the first few. They were actually quite funny.
Yeah.
But even though they're trying to be serious, yeah. And I even enjoyed Resident Evil 5. I thought that was brilliant. But anyway.
It kind of makes me wonder though what's next for them, because some people are saying, oh, it should be Code Veronica, but then other people are kind of leaning towards Resident Evil 5. So I guess we'll see what happens.
If you don't mind, Sentinel, and I know you've got a massive, say in this, but could I get the double pack?
Double pack
of Resident Evil 5 and Code Veronica.
Oh yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, the remake's fine. Yeah, there you go. See, yep. Problem solved. Everyone's happy.
Yeah. Sure. Why not? Yep.
Yeah, that's maybe VJ really has the most interesting life. So like relatable games are like zombie shooting and adventure in a fantasy world. So
you mean a zombie girlfriend that I've been trying to escape?
Yeah.
No, yeah. I think we all lead interesting lives.
But anyway, it's been a fun show tonight.
Oh, look at that, stubzgaming. We're all just getting warmed up.
Yeah, but poor Meisuko, it's 1 o'clock in the morning for him.
Oh no, he's just waking up. He's just about to get his coffee, and aren't you, Meisuko? Tell him.
Yes, I pretty much have to get coffee.
Oh right, okay.
No, just kidding. He's just cooking up some fried lotus.
Yeah.
Coffee.
Oh, yeah. No, but it was really fun talking with you guys. Like it has been way too long time since last time talk with you, and had a good laugh, and I even learned many things. It's all good. It's all good, and it's good to be talking with Sentinel. So have only heard you in the podcast.
Oh right, yeah.
So what's it feel
it's
like?
Nice.
What's it feel like?
It's nice to be on a. It's nice to be on a podcast with you guys.
What part of America, just generally, do you live in, Sentinel? If you don't mind.
Wisconsin. I mean, I grew up in Texas, but I live in Wisconsin right now.
Is that in the Midwest? Is it, or I'm not sure.
Wisconsin's just north of Chicago. If you know where Chicago is.
Oh, okay. I know where Chicago. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's like I drive 90 minutes and I'm in Chicago, so we're pretty close.
Understood.
So it's a little cooler up here than it is obviously in Texas. I don't mind the colder weather because the hotter weather is pretty ruthless down in Texas. It's crazy.
You know what they have aircon. How can you say that?
Not everybody down there does.
Oh, okay.
And you know what? Everybody running the air conditioner down there is always killing the power grid, so they'll be without power for like hours or sometimes days. It's ridiculous.
Oh, okay.
I have to concur with Sentinel there.
Okay, fair enough.
Look, we're not all lords and earls, Mr. Stubbs. Yeah.
Britain has a terrible humidity, and you know that, VJ. Suppose you can't remember, can you? For that long.
I don't know. Just
that long since you got into your private jet and came back. You can't remember.
My private jet, more like my dinghy off a Southend pier.
But anyway, it's been fun tonight. It has. Thanks for coming on, Meisuko. You tell people
it was great.
Where they can find you if you want them to.
Just find me in Twitter, Meisuko_1984. So I will be mostly talking about games and sometimes painting something.
You do some great work. You do some good stuff.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I would want to get better. And there's one another thing like Stubs. You have been now like
music
on making a healthy life transformation, and that's something that I also want to do. So it's very very nice to follow how you are doing with your walking and eating and other things, because I'm in the same boat, so to say.
Yeah, no, it's something I've been meaning to do for a while, but I have done it before, but I lapsed. But this time I'm not. This time I'm not going to lapse because it's caused me health problems. Like I fell over, hurt my back, and I couldn't get up, and it was because of my size. 26 stone isn't healthy, but I'm now down to about 25 stone now. But my back's actually strengthened up now. My back's not actually hurting no more. It's I've got.
That's good.
So it looks like I've done no. It looks like I've done no damage. I think all I did was, I think I pulled some muscles in my back, or bruised it. And luckily, that's what I think it was, because I was worried I'd bust my back because I went down, I slipped on the grass, and I went out there in barefoot, not thinking, and I thought I broke my knee. Though my legs went everywhere. I thought, no, I can't break my knee again. I didn't know, luckily.
Yeah, I remember that you had to suffer quite a long time last time when you broke it.
I tell you, when I was getting up though, from this back thing, it felt like I'd broken. It was just as painful getting up from it, because it required three people to help me up.
Yeah. I feel that I am too old. I cannot be unhealthy anymore. I really have to get in a better shape.
How old are you, Meisuko, if you don't mind me asking?
39 this year.
You said 18, did you say?
Yes.
Me and Meisuko are the same age.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm 39 this year too. In December.
Yeah.
Looks like Sentinel. It looks like we're in for a lot of cake.
Yeah.
Well, it's a big 4-0 next year.
I'm only a few years older than Stubbs, so.
Well, I'm older than all of you.
I know.
That's why I sound so miserable. You see, you've got all that to look forward to.
Right.
and Luke still says Luke's only 16.
Come on, 15. We know
he is compared to all of us, though.
Yeah, he's
young. Yeah.
He's got all that misery to look forward to.
Oh, Indy wants to know your age, VJ. I bet you don't reveal it.
Listen, I'm still young enough to be able to play Hollow Knight and get 108%. So let's leave it at that.
Yeah.
I've never been able to get it out of him. Indy, don't worry.
Challenge.
He's told me roughly what area it is, but he won't actually say it. Will you, VJ?
And that's the end of the show.
Exactly. That's it. Thanks for coming on, Meisuko. I've already said that, though, and we got sidetracked.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, you have to thank Sentinel and VJ also.
Thanks for coming on, Sentinel. Do you want to promote all your podcasts and XPN and anything you're doing?
I'm just wanted to say we're just not exotic enough for outros. You see, we're not fulfilling that.
Well, we keep getting sidetracked, don't we? We started
talking
about.
No. You're just pigeonholing us two that we live in the States. You see.
Yeah, I know.
Over the pond now, not interested.
Over the pond.
Sorry, go ahead, Sentinel.
It's SSG Sentinel as it shows up on screen. It's on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. Also on XPN's 2 podcasts during the week. The PSN Party Podcast is going to be tomorrow, 2:30 p.m. Central Time. It's 8:30 for everyone in the UK. And then the XBL Party Podcast is on Thursdays. That is at 2 p.m. Central Time for me. And for everyone in the UK, that's at 8 o'clock. So definitely check it out.
Thanks for coming on, Sentinel. And
thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No, it was fun. It was good to get you finally on, and we will get the Stubzcast sorted out. We will. We will get that sorted out. We will. But yeah, thanks for coming on. And VJ complains about outros, but every time I ask him where they can find you, he doesn't tell me.
No, I don't want to be found. I actually want to get lost. If I'm honest with you, yeah. This is my. If I tell you what, if there is any such thing as reincarnation, knowing my luck, I'll come back as myself. But on that note, it was. I'm so glad you're back, Meisuko, because you do cheer me up. I think you're one of the special people in the community, more than you know. And I was chatting to you yesterday. I didn't know we had so much in common. And SSG, I'm really looking forward to being on your show. Thank you for the invite. I don't get invited as often as I'd like to, and I don't appear as much as I want to anyway. But anyway, besides that, thank you. And stubzgaming, what can I say? What a great show, as usual. And I hope Removable's doing okay out there. And hopefully listens in on this show later if he feels like it. And just wanted to give him a shout out. And everyone in the chat, it's been really good today. Thank you.
Thanks for coming on. And Meisuko is just like me. He doesn't know how to take great positive feedback about themselves. He went silent.
Yeah. I am.
He was going bright red, but obviously you couldn't see.
Yeah. You cannot see, luckily.
He turned his coffee order into a double shot, you see, and said, "Oh no, I need a double. I definitely need a double after that."
Right.
Right. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
That's great.
Really appreciate it. It's been fun. Thanks to everyone in chat. Luke Steele, Indie Gamer. There's been tons. Lady Foxfire, although I call her Fox because she prefers to be called Fox. Also, there's been Matt Barnes has been in Indie Pixels. Who else has been in? Sergeant Sentinel. He's in the conversation. But yeah, thanks everyone who's popped in, and we'll see you next time. Have a great week, everyone.
Later.
You